Hello there, and seeing as this episode is due to release on May the 4th, what better day to go back and look at Super Nintendo's first outing in the Star Wars franchise. Today, we're going to be looking at Super Star Wars on the Super Nintendo. Back in 1977, Star Wars Episode 4, A New Hope, was released to the cinema-going public. George Lucas had created a universe full of many famous characters, each more memorable than the last, with some notable exceptions. This franchise is widely regarded as the beginning of movie merchandising, with figures, lunchboxes, and all manner of other Star Wars branded products, some stranger than others. It just made sense that computer games soon followed, and in 1978 Apple Computers created an unlicensed Star Wars game for its cassette-based Apple II computer. Interestingly enough, the first Star Wars licensed video game for home users was in 1982 with The Empire Strikes Back on the Atari 2600. And in 1983 Atari finally released the arcade version of Star Wars. It was a vector-based space shoot-'em-up, which was the first to feature digitised speech direct from a film. If you fast forward 10 years, and the 16-bit range of computers were emerging as a dominant format, and LucasArts produced and released Super Star Wars on the Super Nintendo, this game carrying on the insistence on putting the word Super in front of every game in the early days of the SNES. This game predated the sequel trilogy, and even predated the remastered VHS versions of the first three movies, so the idea is to release these games to fill a gap for the Star Wars fans. So, on the 1st of November 1992, Super Star Wars was released in North America, with the European version some 5 months later in 1993. No such thing as simultaneous worldwide launches in these days. It was the only version of this in particular game, however Mega Drive 1 was in production, but more on that later. Upon loading the game, it won't surprise you that the sounds and feel of the game takes you straight into the Star Wars universe, from the game's title screen, although I'm not too sure about Luke's face, onto the opening section, and I'll let you take a look at this in its 16-bit glory. Once the introductions are out the way, the game is your typical run and gun game. Did I say typical? I meant bloody hard. Did I say bloody hard? I meant damn near impossible in places. Look, let's get this out the way early doors. This game is hard. Really hard. If it's not the baddies that get you, and in some of the later levels there are hundreds of them, it's the near pixel perfect jumps that you need to perform to complete the level. This here is a sample of level 3, and believe me, the controller almost got thrown across the room many a times. One mistake takes you all the way back to the beginning, either that or certain doom. And don't think just because you've killed the enemies once that's it. Oh no, they respawn. Thanks for that, Darth. You do have a number of different attacks to help you on your way. You can shoot your laser, or a little bit later in the game you collect your lightsaber. Now your lightsaber is the most powerful weapon in the game, but you do have to be very close to your opponents to use it. This does make it kind of redundant, as 80% of the enemies just shoot you before you get close enough to use it. Your laser can be upgraded and it gets more powerful as you go on, but you die, it's right back to the basic model. Your character can run and jump, which you would expect in a runny jumpy shooter game, and they can perform a higher somersault jump. Oh, and they can do a skid. Also, pressing the left and right shoulder buttons gives the ability to look up and down, and you will use this for some of the more tricky jumps later on in the game. To break up the gameplay slightly, there are a number of different driving levels which see you enter the cockpit of one of the land speeders. Here, you have to shoot a number of predefined enemies and then speed off to the goal. These levels make fantastic use of the SNES Mode 7 ability and showcase the console to its very best. The graphics are great and what you'd expect from a 16-bit Super Nintendo game of the time. You can clearly see the different enemies and the character you control, and a little bit later on you collect Chewbacca and Han Solo as controllable characters. These both have their own unique style and abilities, or you could input one of the many cheat codes and have these three characters available from the very beginning. It's your choice. There are 15 levels in the game and they do loosely follow the plot of the film. And it's not exact, but hey, if George Lucas wants to have some artistic license over his franchise, who am I to complain? Except we can complain about him, because he was rubbish. Each level gets more and more difficult and you will need all these continues and lives to get through it. Most of the levels do have an end of level baddie, but again not many of these are from the film, but when you're George Lucas you can do what you want. Even going as far as borrowing some designs from other franchises. See if you can spot what this end of level baddie is influenced by.
Please put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
When you get to the end you become Red 5 fighter and you go and kill the TIE fighters on the Death Star. Then you enter a sequence that's very much like the Vector game from the early 80s, shooting fireballs and killing Darth Vader's ship. Then you've got to pinpoint fire your laser into the exhaust hole to blow the Death Star. Phew, bet that's the last we'll see the baddies for a while. They definitely won't milk this for a further 8 films. Then you are greeted to a rendition of the closing scene from the Star Wars film, and given this is early in the Super Nintendo's life cycle, it's very well done. The music is faithful to the original and the graphics are fine. You are then greeted to a question, and the question is, will the Empire strike back? Well, I wonder. Super Star Wars has only ever seen the light of day on the Super Nintendo, but there was a Mega Drive version like I mentioned earlier. It was in the process of being made and it was far down the production cycle when it was canned. The ROM did appear on various sites earlier this year, but it's by no means a completed game, but it's well worth a look if you can find it. It was to be expected really, but Super Star Wars spawned 2 sequels, Super Empire Strikes Back and Super Return of the Jedi, again with the Super. And this game still remains a great game, so if you want to challenge, you've got a few hours to kill, and you've got access to a Game Genie, and you need one of them, go and save the universe from the Imperial forces. Oh, and try not to get your home planet blown up in the process. So that's all from this episode of Noob Game Reviews. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I'll see you next time, and may the Force be with you. God, I can't believe I just done that.